All right, so we'll kick this off. So this is the first time we've done this with everybody in the same room, but really excited. So I'm Jared Glover, my sister Kristen, and my dad Jim, and Colonel Dan Rooney from the Folds of Honor is with us today. But we decided to get together and do more of like a longer form talk about our relationship and tell us about the Folds of Honor. And I think we just kind of started at square one. You want to?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the community that really want to know the details and the ins and outs of what the Folds of Honor does, and it's such a great cause. So I just would like you to expand on how you started and kind of where you're at today with it.
Yeah, well, first, you can't make old friends. We've been at this 13 years, and God brought us together for something bigger than ourselves, and that's the highest calling for any relationship. And most people, you don't get those moments in life, so it's a blessing to sit down, and we know time flies, man. 13 years, it goes so quickly. We can all remember where we were when we met. Yeah, I know.
Seems like a blink of an eye, really.
Well, 13 years ago, you had 4 children, right? And now a 5th. And 13 years ago, I had none. And
yeah,
time flies. Time flies.
Yeah, and you have all boys, and I have all girls.
Yep.
God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
As we kick this thing off. Now I think, I look over at Jim, and it's so good to see you here. We don't see you on TV all the time.
I'm not not even close as pretty close.
Dad'll do it and all that, but everything starts somewhere. And you remember where you were starting Jim Glover Chevrolet, and I'd actually just like to audible and kick that to you, starting this whole thing off.
Jim Glover Chevrolet was a blessing to the whole family. We'd always want to be Chevy dealers, and that opportunity came about, and you were able to capitalize on it. But Dan,
what year was that?
That's in 01.
2001.
I actually bought that. We had it under contract 2 days before 9/11, and so it was quite that, as you know, that whole deal changed the whole country. But the car business has definitely changed since then. But when the time came that we had the opportunity to do something other than just sell cars, and had this partnership with the Folds of Honor, and I think you're 100% right. I think God definitely introduced us, and because of the history I had with my dad having an injury, and actually living through what you do for the Folds of Honor, what you do for the men and women of the armed forces, and now the first responders. It was just a huge opportunity for me as a human being, just to be able to partner with you
and honor your dad.
And evidently, definitely. Yeah. And then I've had the opportunity through you to meet some of the other veterans that's had the same injury that my dad had.
And Grandpa passed away from that injury at a very early age, and you were 19 when he passed away. So
it definitely changed my life and impacted my life. But to get to meet and hear stories of other people that had the same injury and lost their limbs, and be able to feel that we're helping, and our contributions compared to what you guys are doing is minuscule, but it's something that we're very prideful about. It means a lot to us.
Well, I want to unpack, just as I'm sitting here listening to you tell the story, but you were 19 years old, and that's, a really early point in time to be doing life without your father. And I think about you and I's relationship and how much that you still impact my life, and I'm 36, but being able to, you think about it, 19 years old, he potentially would have been a qualified Folds of Honor recipient that could have gone to college because of Folds of Honor. So if you think about the full circle of that, you were in the situation that is exactly what Folds is after, that you fit right into the mission at 19 years old. And I was just sitting here thinking that it's kind of crazy to think that.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, and I think there's beauty in the simplicity of the Folds mission. It's honor the sacrifice, educate the legacy, and unite Americans around all those who serve. And we're really blessed in this country, and it would not be the country it is without our military, which is about 0.5% of the population, which is crazy to think. And our first responders and this group of folks that run towards trouble. And we know bad stuff happens, like to your dad, and to be able to step in and take care of people's families, which is the most sacred ground for everybody. But to honor that sacrifice and give scholarships and education, which I think is the greatest force multiplier as a charity too. There's lots of different charities out there, but the hand up versus the handout is a totally different thing. And we see it all the time. And what's now, 62,000 scholarships we've awarded, which is crazy to even think, almost $300 million in life-changing education. But watching these families, spouses and children, where we come in and we meet sacrifice with hope, and what that does to them when somebody believes in them is just, it's just awesome. And you guys were with us from the very beginning, and people may not realize it, but we are family. You believed in Folds when we were still just getting started, 13 years ago, and have donated, over $700,000 in life-changing education. And it's cool because those dollars stay here local to Oklahoma families. And man, it's just such a blessing.
Well, now when you bring in the first responders, that's just a whole new chapter of people. And Dan, I don't know how if you take time really to reflect, but the route of it is, and you made the comment about it's life-changing, but it really is life-changing. Mm-hmm. What you've done to the recipients, you'll never really, really know. But 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, they're going to reflect back. And not only that, but you're also letting them know there's somebody out there that cares what happened to their mom or dad. Mm-hmm. And that, that's because they've been scarred for life. So when you let them know that someone really cares, it's, you don't really know what kind of impact that has on anybody.
No. There's a great John Wooden quote, like the purest form of good is doing something expecting nothing in return. Right. And yeah, we don't know the vast majority of the recipients, the people that, purchase a vehicle from the Jim Glover Auto family. They're probably never going to meet that person they helped, but that's the purest form of good.
Right.
Well, and it's such a blessing to us to have a way to give back to those families that have given so much for this country. And, the first responders right here in our community that, protect us, protect our communities and keep us safe. It's just a blessing to us to be able to give back to those people. So we're just really grateful for the partnership.
Yeah. So September 9th, 2001, you started.
Well, that's when we contracted, and we closed December 17th, actually, of 2001.
Yeah, so go back September 9th. So everybody remembers where they were September 11th. It's indelibly etched on your souls. I was here in Tulsa as an F-16 pilot, only time in the history we're fully loaded up with live missiles on the ramp in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Ready to go,
not knowing what's going to happen next. And so how do I come at this Folds of Honor thing from a very authentic place? I mean, I was 12 years old, met a fighter pilot. I had no idea it could be grown up and cool. And I'm like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And, fast forward, blessed to achieve that boyhood dream. I always had no idea where God would ultimately take it. And, I came back from my second of 3 combat tours of duty in Iraq, and had been back about 2 months and was actually on a commercial airliner with Corporal Brock Buckland, who'd been killed in Iraq, and his identical twin brother, Corporal Brad Buckland, was bringing him home. And I've seen a lot of bad stuff in combat, but I'd never seen that side of war. And he had a 4-year-old son. And that the finality of the sacrifice hit me in a way it never had before in my life. And you realize this little kid's never going to play catch with his dad or get a phone call. All these things as families we hold so sacred. And as I walked off the plane that night, I felt a calling from God to do something. I think that's the beauty of our relationship, too, is I think a lot of people, you see loss, and whether that's in the military or now we've expanded to first responders, but you can't do anything about it. And I think that's the greatest blessing in my life, that I'm like, hey, we're obviously, we mourn your loss, but we're going to get in the fight with you. And to be able to meet this unthinkable sacrifice with the hope of an education. And one of the most shocking things on my walk at Folds has been, hey, the scholarship is life-changing. They're $5,000 a piece. You know, we'll pump out $55 million this year at Folds of Honor, which, again, you can't imagine sitting above the garage, you know, from nothing. But the money, while it makes a huge difference, it's honoring the sacrifice, is to a recipient the most important thing we do, because we live in this country that it's just here today, gone tomorrow. We just blow through days and weeks and months, and these sacrifices are forgotten. And when I look up there at our always on Jim Glover Auto family, and I see that folded flag, that's what it means to me, that it's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. We are free. First responders are deploying every 6 seconds, answering those 911 calls. And we will remember every day to honor that sacrifice that they're making.
You know, Dan, that's one thing I wished everybody would take the time to realize what we all take for granted. You know, because everybody's life, we get busy, and in today's world, it's much easier to get busier than it was 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. But we get busy and with our lives, and we just take stuff for granted. You know, we went through some times over the last couple of years that it scarred me personally to see people treat our police officer and first responders, in my opinion, in a terrible way, because the truth is there's nobody here. I don't care what state you are. I don't care if you're Republican or a Democrat. You need first responders. We all need this. This country needs them. And this country wouldn't be what it was or what it is without it. And we definitely wouldn't be what it is without our armed forces. So I don't take it for granted. I know my kids don't take it for granted. And I'd like to challenge everybody out there. Just realize this country is free because of what they've done. And
their sacrifices, and their family has sacrificed so much in return. So, you know, to have the Folds of Honor to be a place that we can, you know, donate and give back is, you know, just a huge blessing to all of us, you know, just because it does mean so much. You know, the people that this affects, you know, they're the first responders in our communities, the military, you know, that are here in Oklahoma, their families, you know, so to be able to give back to those family that have sacrificed so much is just such a huge opportunity for us. And we're very, very grateful to be involved.
Yeah. It's a group that a lot of people don't realize, you know, that folded flag. There are two groups in this country that get that folded flag upon their death, and that is military and first responders at their funerals. Whether they're lost in a line of duty or they live a long life and, you know, go to the Lord at 90 years old, you get that folded flag. And a lot of people don't realize this either. It's 2.3 pounds is the official weight of that folded flag. And doesn't sound much, but I've seen a lot of families get that flag, and it is a heavy burden to carry. And I feel that's what we get to do. We just get to come alongside them and help them carry that by honoring that sacrifice and leaning into what ultimately brings us together. I think our families, it's, you know, it's faith, family, and freedom with no apologies. That is who we are. And I think that's who a lot of your customers are, because they connect with how authentic and real you have been since December 17th of 2001.
You know, it's funny you say that about the flag. I still have my dad's. And the kid said, you know, he died when I was 19 years old. And that was many years ago. And we've moved many times since then. And I still have the flag. It means a lot to me. And I want to make sure also people out there understand that when we're asking, or when we're supporting the Folds of Honor, and we're going to donate a portion of every car deal to the Folds, I want to make sure everybody out there knows that we're definitely not asking anybody to ever pay more for a car. If we can't save you money, we don't deserve your business. We're still going to donate. When you buy, I don't care how much we beat the deal by, we're still going to donate a portion on because otherwise we really wouldn't be doing our part.
So I actually didn't know you had Grandpa's flag. That was news to me sitting here just now. That's awesome. So you've always explained in your story of where the logo came from is there's 13 folds in a folded flag, and that, turned into 1300 at the Patriot, where it's taps and just silence. And it's a daily just moment for everybody to stop and realize all the things that we take for granted. Mm-hmm. But as we kind of started talking about our plan for 2025, we realized this was the 13th year. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to 13 years ago when we first met you, when we first heard the story. So it would have been, I think it was late 2012. And then that came into, we launched our first promotion month, was actually, I think, over Memorial Day. We did a May at the beginning in 2013. So that night it was at, I think, a doctor's.
2013.
Yeah, 2013. It's weird.
Oh, that's crazy.
Years ago.
Wow.
And we actually got invited from somebody that used to be on our, Dustin Hightower was on our team. He's working in Chicago now.
Ex-Marine.
But he was an ex-Marine, and he got invited by Holly Woodward, and who was a friend of his, and he invited Dad and I and Kristen, and we all went that night. And it's where we heard your story for the first time and shook your hand. And it's the first time we heard, the story of Corporal Buckland and the night on the airplane and the passion behind the mission. And we left that night and in communication with each other. It's like, okay, well, how do we get in the fight? How can we be creative? What could we do? And to try to make at least a little bit of an impact. Because even at that point, you guys had just rocket momentum. You had some huge partners and you were growing. And, it's obviously what has happened today is far and beyond where it was 13 years ago. But we wanted to figure out what can we do to make an impact. In that first year, it's when we had the dealership in Lawton. So the fit with Fort Sill, I mean, everything was, you call it synchronicity, but everything just, it was a perfect fit, and the partnership was awesome. And we've all become lifelong family friends.
Neighbors.
We're neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at where this journey is taking us.
Yeah. You borrow a chainsaw every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so here we are 13 years later, and I think it would be awesome to hear about the expansion into first responders, because obviously the need with the soldiers' families was huge, but the first responder need is in my opinion, I think it could very well be bigger just because the numbers are significantly more.
Yeah. And Jim alluded to it, and I was on the same page, like, why first responders? I watched the way our first responder community was being treated several years ago. And it felt to me much like the soldiers coming home from Vietnam. Like, hey man, they're just out there doing the work, and not being appreciated. And so I started investigating the community. I'm a fighter pilot. I don't know much about first responders, and was just absolutely stunned to see basically zero support for these heroic folks that show up every 6 seconds in this country. 911 is dialed. That's 240 million times a year. And they don't care where you live, how you vote, the color of your skin. They are coming in the darkest moment of your life when you dial 911, which I did for my dad a couple months ago. Those are desperate moments that are met by heroic people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they're knowingly running into it.
Oh, everybody's running the other way.
A friend of mine is a firefighter, and he sent me a video yesterday. They were responding to a house fire call in the middle of the day. The rest of us are at work and we're going about our lives. We don't even know this happened, but they're driving into the fire, like literally running into the flames. Yeah. And, their families are on the other end of it, knowing they're doing that.
Risking their lives every day.
I knew we were shooting this video today, and as I got that video, I was like, man, like that's a moment that's like we don't even think about because we're not running into a burning house on a daily basis.
No, and to your point, and they're ever present. They're in every town in America. Unlike our military, on a day-to-day basis, I think they play a way more heroic role. And they're a group that no one is supporting out there. There's no organization in this country giving educational support to the hundreds killed and the thousands wounded as first responders every year. And so I have this great saying, it became a life anthem of mine as a fighter pilot, go before you're ready. And I'm like, man, we're going to get in the fight, and we're going to see if we can support first responders, but also create awareness to elevate their heroic stature in our communities. And it's just as much like thanking them in a genuine way. And we're working really hard with groups like the National Football League right now around October 28th, which nobody knows that date. Maybe in 3 years they will, and it's First Responders Day.
Nice.
And to make that a true national holiday where we close banks with a day of reverence to say thank you to first responders across this great nation. And so I couldn't be more passionate about anything. We'll see where the good Lord takes us on this first responder front, but it's just such a blessing to walk past, the highway patrolman at the Owasso Rams football game on Friday nights and the EMTs and say thank you. And that has been a shift for me. I never used to walk past them. We walk past our military and say, hey, thank you for your service. But thanking our first responders with that same level of gratitude is a blessing. And, off we go in the spirit of 13 years and 13 folds of the flag. And the meaning of the number 13 is new beginning. So it's a new beginning for all of us as we go do the next right thing, man.
And, and I've taken the opportunities I have for at lunch or whatever, and I see a police officer in line or maybe behind me or whatever. I take it as a privilege to buy their lunch. Mm-hmm. And God's blessed me to where I have the opportunity to do that. But more importantly, I want them to know truly how much we do appreciate them. Because I tell them all the time when I see them, I shake their hand and appreciate your service. And I do the same thing if I see somebody in active military. But do they really know how sincere I really am? And because it does. I understand what they've done for our country and what they're doing for our country every day. Whether you're in active military or first responders, I have peace of mind for my kids, my grandkids, because of what they do. Mm-hmm. And so what you're doing is bringing awareness again to a whole different chapter of great heroes. Mm-hmm. And it's another opportunity for us to help out.
So we all got together and put our heads together alongside yourself and your team, and okay, what can we do? What can we shift gears to be more engaged and to try to make more of an impact? So up until now, we've dedicated a month a year where we're talking about Folds of Honor. We every car deal that month, we donate a portion of it to the Folds of Honor, and it's been an amazing relationship, and I hope I've met. And you've met, we've got some of the scholarship recipients that are right here in Oklahoma that have, come to fruition as a token, I guess, of our participation. And it's been some amazing stories. And, you have recipients now that are, in their mid 30s, they've already gone through school and they're raising families now. And like to your point a second ago, like you have no idea the impact that they're, not only just their life, but the generations to come behind them, all because of Fold stepping in and doing something to make a difference. So now that you're stepping into the first responder world, we were trying to figure, okay, what do we do next? And the answer was moving to Always On. So we are going to build out a lot of Folds of Honor specific information on our website. We're going to be making a donation with every vehicle sold every day from this point forward. And we've actually even started to entertain the idea of a new logo concept, incorporating the folded flag into all of our marketing, including, the insignia we've talked about, like what is it, the name on the back of the car, like what's that really mean or what's that stand for? And, incorporating that into our insignia that's on the back of every vehicle that we sell from this point forward is, I think, a way that we can say, and our customers can wear it on the back of their car that say, hey, I didn't just go buy a car. I was a part of something, or I was, yes, I was purchasing a vehicle and I was going to purchase it somewhere, but I'm proud of the fact that I bought it somewhere that is trying to make a difference. Even if it's minute, but it's making a difference. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you guys have donated over $700,000. So this isn't a marketing campaign. This is life-changing journey that we've been on for 13 years. And I'm so grateful on behalf of all of our recipients that we've been able to support here in our Oklahoma communities. But I have one request, that when we start flying the flag next to Jim Glover, that it goes on my Chevy truck first.
There you go. There you go.
Definitely.
Because
Fair enough.
people want to show who they are.
Well,
And we're in that space now. It's just awesome. Like, it's faith, family, and freedom with no apologies.
exactly.
Like, put that on my vehicle so people know who I am when I'm coming at you. The same reason I got it on my shirt. Right. And it's amazing when you can do something that represents who you are. And that's the great thing about Jim Glover Auto Family, and who you are as great friends, but the way you walk in life is giving people an opportunity to come purchase a new or used vehicle and also say, man, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's where the unapologetically patriotic comes in. You know, that fully encompasses who we are. It's how we were raised. We're so thankful to the men and women of this country that gives us those freedoms, and we appreciate the men and women that keep our communities safe with the first responders. And, you know, having our insignia on the back of our cars with that folded flag is just, it's really awesome.
Well, and we're proud of our flags.
Yeah, we are.
You know, there's a reason that we fly the largest flags that we could find.
Yeah.
But they and it's kind of it's funny, they become landmarks, you know. So it's not hard to explain how to find either of our dealerships, because just find the giant American flag.
You'll see our flag before our store.
Mm-hmm. So something else that came out of our round table as we were, you know, kicking new ideas around. So our vehicle protection products are going to be called the Glover Guardian. A lot of this is percolating and we're getting organized with it. But we're like, okay, well, what can we do for the everyday hero, the first responder, the active duty military personnel, fully retired military personnel? What can we do when they purchase a vehicle from us that's something a little extra? Like, what can we do to have their back because they've had ours? And that's what we've been talking about. So what we landed on was it's going to be the Glover Guardian Folds plan. So it's going to be a 3-year, just complete prepaid maintenance plan. So when they purchase their vehicle, new or used, Chevrolet or Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, their vehicle will come with an activated 3-year maintenance plan to where their oil changes, their tire rotations. I think it'll include a vehicle alignment, you know, just a lot of the just necessary maintenance that is going to be expenses is going to be paid for up front.
And that'll be on us completely, you know, part of us donating to them, a way to say thank you from us to our first responders and military. You know, not only will a portion of every vehicle sold be going to the Folds of Honor, but, you know, this is something that we can do for them. So
Guarding those who guard us.
That's cool.
Very
like it.
Yeah.
I like
maybe,
better.
yeah, we might use that.
Yeah, that's good.
So I know we've talked a lot about your start with Folds. I learned some stuff about your history with Grandpa that I didn't know. We've talked about the future with where we're going with an always on, you know, partnership with Folds of Honor. And with that, Dan, I thank you greatly for your partnership and for spending time with us, but love to hear your final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm blessed. We're family. And as we march forward, I'm very excited about the opportunity to share our life-changing relationship, because that's what it is. When you buy from Jim Glover Auto Family, you're impacting the life of a military or first responder, to our Folds of Honor supporters around this great nation. And it is from sea to shining sea. And we know I'm a Jim Glover Chevy truck driver. I love it. I love my 2-lane roads. I love my Chevy truck. And to give Folds of Honor supporters the opportunity to purchase a vehicle, new or used, from the Jim Glover Auto Family. You guys are amazing. You'll deliver it wherever they are in the country. They never have to step in the dealership, and they know when they do that, they get to fly the Jim Glover Folds of Honor flag on that vehicle and support Folds of Honor recipients in their local communities. So very excited to get to kick that off. Always on, because we are free 365 days a year. So excited, our 13th anniversary for our new beginning, to just go and continue to do the right thing and without apology celebrate faith, family, and freedom together and those who serve us.
Unapologetically patriotic. God bless the USA.
Amen.
Amen. That's right.
Yeah.